with the announcement that Elon Musk has made a deal to purchase Twitter, now there's a little bit of research into his actions and whether he's serious about protecting free speech. Elon Musk decided to announce that through purchasing Twitter and taking it private, he will ensure that that platform really values free speech and stops censoring the opinions of people who might be unsavory. Now, it's one thing to state that you want to be a protector of free speech, but I do think it's important to look at someone's record, much like I did with Tulsi Gabbard, who claimed that she was a big progressive, and then her record seemed to indicate otherwise, and that was later proved correct on that. Well, seems like we have a similar situation with Elon Musk and his protections of free speech, because his history would tell you otherwise. Not a fan of free speech, especially when his financial interests are at play. So while Musk has criticized Twitter's leadership, he has repeatedly attempted to squelch speech that could negatively impact his economic interests. Musk's history underscores the risks of giving near complete control of one of the world's most powerful communication networks to one extremely rich individual. So we want to provide the receipts, give you the examples. So let's start with one of the latest examples, which is a small one. I'll admit it's a small example, but it does show that one of his latest tweets has not aged well. Public Citizen tweeted this, a screenshot of Elon Musk blocking them. FYI, we're blocked by Elon Musk. So much for being committed to free speech. And I just want to remind you all of what Elon Musk tweeted just yesterday. I hope that even my worst critics remain on Twitter, because that is what free speech means. Now again, small example, let's get into some of the big examples. In 2020, there were reports that social media platforms were sharing these stories of Tesla vehicles being produced with faulty brakes. Now, Bloomberg at the time reported that there was no evidence to indicate that this was a widespread problem with Tesla's manufacturing. But Tesla didn't decide to fight that misinformation with more speech, which is what free speech absolutists would argue you should do. In fact, instead of attempting to win over Chinese consumers with facts, Tesla reportedly sought to leverage the power of China's authoritarian regime. According to people familiar with the matter, Tesla complained to the government over what it sees as unwarranted attacks on social media and asked Beijing to use its censorship powers to block some of the posts. There are many other examples, but again, using your relationship with China's authoritarian regime to censor what you don't like on social media platforms is exactly what Elon Musk claims he's against. But that is the kind of practice, that's the kind of behavior he engaged in. And he loves to attack journalists who are critical of him and Tesla as well. We'll give you those examples in just a minute. But Cenk, what do you think?
Yeah, so first of all, let's start out with hashtag Anna was right. And so yesterday we talked about how we were concerned that people who claim to be in favor of free speech, especially if they're on the right wing or completely if they're on the right wing, are hypocrites and they almost never mean it. And so today now there is a tsunami of evidence that Elon Musk does not mean it. Look, proof's always in the pudding. So if he comes out and he actually unblocks his critics and says, "Oh, I'm so sorry for all the things I've done to block speech before," and maybe gives back some money to the people he wronged, maybe he could get redemption. But as things stand now, he is not at all an advocate of free speech. We have a lot more examples. Here, I'll give you a couple. There's Lawrence Fosse. He's a guy who was called Montana skeptic, and Anna's gonna tell you more about him in a second. But he dared to criticize Tesla's performance in the stock market. The most benign thing you could do, okay? And Elon Musk tried to get him fired, hashtag cancel culture. What happened? What happened? We'll give you details in a second. Then there's Martin Tripp, who's an assembly line worker at a facility. And he complained, and rightfully so, about a problem they had in their facility. Elon Musk sued him for $167 million to intimidate him. He's just an assembly line worker, okay? And on. We've got so many examples. So Elon Musk, whenever somebody says something he doesn't like, goes out of his way, goes to outer space with SpaceX to blast them into oblivion, to try to get them fired, block them, ban them, sue them. and just obliterate them in every way. Now, if you're a right winger, I know what you're thinking right now. That's awesome. I love when the big guy crushes the little guy. That guy at the assembly line, he deserved it. Go get him, Elon. Okay, that's fine. But you can't say he's an advocate of free speech.
No, but they will say he's an advocate of free speech. They'll claim that they're protectors of free speech. This has been an ongoing right-wing grift for years now. Starting with people like Dave Rubin claiming like they're the warriors for free speech. And then they turn around and go after anyone who dares say anything that they don't like. It happens over and over again. I mean, Dave Rubin wrote a book titled "Don't Burn This Book," poking fun at liberals, allegedly caring enough about Dave Rubin's book to want to burn it. If anything, I mean, Dave Rubin's book was a fantastic, comedy piece. It's like the best comedy he's ever produced. Like there were reading groups enjoying the comedy in that book because of how bad it was. But anyway, putting that aside, you have right wingers literally banning books in public libraries as we speak. In the state of Florida, they have banned up to 200 books simply because conservative parents and conservative donors don't like those books.
They even started banning math books.
But my point is, right-wing voters in this country love it, love it. Because everyone who claims that they want to protect free speech is actually full of it. Everyone who claims that they're concerned about cancel culture is actually full of it. Everyone's a massive hypocrite in this debate, in this argument, because fact of the matter is, this country is full of a bunch of thin-skinned, narcissistic, pathetic fools who want to take all the control, who want to control the narrative 100% of the time, and that's the reality of the situation. You see it on the right, there's no question about it. You see it among the elite and the corporate class, there's no question. And yes, in some cases, you absolutely do see it on the left, where if you dare deviate a little bit from whatever the accepted narrative is, all of a sudden everyone starts attacking you pretty aggressively. That is the culture and that is the climate that we're living in. Let's just keep it real. What makes this story particularly discouraging is that now you have the richest man in the world, puffing his chest as a free speech warrior when we know it's not true, and he's going to have complete control over this platform, which everyone keeps referring to as a public square. Well, if it's genuinely a public square, if we genuinely want to protect free speech on Twitter, the only way to do that is to ensure that the Constitution applies to it. And the only way that it could apply to Twitter is if it's a public utility, controlled by the government, which by the Constitution indicates cannot censor your expression or your speech. Okay. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about control by one wealthy person.
All right, we're gonna get to more examples in 1 second, but I just wanna say there is one group that is not full of crap on cancel culture and free speech, and that's us. So we've called out cancel culture on the right and we've called it out on the left. I don't know literally anyone else that does that. Either they protect the left or they protect the right. No, we call it out when it actually happens, okay? And we call it out when it doesn't happen, and it's a mirage and it's a marketing trick. And free speech, we defended Ben Shapiro, Ann Coulter, you name it, and their ability to speak on different formats. Megyn Kelly, Rush Limbaugh, you name it. We've done it because we're actually principled, okay? But the right wing has no principles at all. Ben Shapiro talking today about how everyone that works at Twitter should be fired. What happened? I thought you were against cancel culture. They're giant hypocrites, which brings us back to Elon Musk.
So let's get back to Lawrence Fosse, someone that Cenk mentioned a little earlier. Lawrence Fosse was actually, and continues to be, a pretty harsh critic of Elon Musk's. He was working as a portfolio manager in Manhattan at the time when he was also simultaneously writing blogs on Seeking Alpha that happened to also be critical of Elon Musk. Now, he did so under a pseudonym, and Elon Musk went to great lengths to figure out who he was, and then essentially hit up Lawrence Fosse's employer to let the employer know that his employee is writing on Seeking Alpha, and he's being very mean to Elon Musk, and he don't like that, okay? So Elon Musk says that, by the way, so Fosse is approached by a colleague who relays a message from Elon Musk. Elon Musk says that you're a very bad person and you're writing bad things about him. Portfolio manager Lawrence Fosse recalled the colleague explaining, he's going to have to sue you and he's going to have to drag our boss into it. Now, the CEO of Tesla Motors, of course, Elon Musk, had actually called his office and threatened to make his life miserable by threatening litigation. His offense? He criticized Musk online.
Oh, I love free speech. Even my critics can stay on there, no problem. Really?
Beginning in 2015, Fosse wrote dozens of articles critical of Tesla on the popular crowdsourced finance site Seeking Alpha. I would take a close look at its financial statements and write about things that struck me as wrong, he explained. And he would write under the moniker Montana Skeptic, obviously not using his real name. Again, Musk figured out who he was and not only threatened to sue him, but like tattletaled to this man's employer. Eventually, one pro-Tesla online sleuth outed him as the man behind the accounts on Twitter and Seeking Alpha. A little more than a week later, Fosse said that's when Musk rang his boss. After the phone call, Fosse told his employer he would stop writing at Seeking Alpha and deactivate his Twitter account. He stated that while Musk had no valid claim, I'm not going to drag my boss into a lawsuit he shouldn't have any part of.
Look, calling your boss to get you fired and even threatening that boss so that he's worried about his own job. I mean, that is the definition of cancel culture. That's cancel culture 101. That is the perfect example of cancel culture. And that's what Elon Musk did. Right wing, you're still celebrating it? Make up your mind. Are you celebrating cancel culture or do you hate cancel culture? Because it is inarguable that that's cancel culture, trying to get somebody fired for criticizing you.
Well, they should just tell the truth. They love cancel culture as long as the people they don't like are the ones being canceled. That is the most succinct, accurate way of describing what's happening. They love cancel culture as long as they're the ones who get to do the canceling.
Inarguable. We win, you lose.
So there were other journalists who were attacked by Elon Musk as well. I want to go to graphic 3 here. Musk has attacked journalists who write stories that are critical of Tesla. Business Insider reporter Lynette Lopez, for example, has written numerous critical stories about Tesla. Musk responded by repeatedly suggesting that Lopez was conspiring with short sellers to trade on insider information, which of course is a crime, but Musk did not offer any evidence to substantiate his claims. So just throwing ridiculous accusations and essentially defaming journalists is one of the tactics that he likes to use to intimidate them and try to get them to stop reporting critically about him. And here's the tweet in question, it's from 2018, where he wrote, "Indeed, very simple question. To be specific, Lynette Lopez, did you compensate or promise to compensate Martin Tripp for inside information about Tesla? Did he, under the inducement, provide you with exaggerated negative info, which you printed but turned out to be untrue?" Now, the accusation was completely unfounded, and basically he's going after anyone within Tesla, by the way, who dare speak to reporters when they're reporting on these stories that are related to the business that Tesla is doing. So this is what he would do. He would do it over and over again.
So let me say one couple of things about that particular case. Number one, the First Amendment has freedom of speech and freedom of the press. But if you write something that Elon Musk doesn't like, he will attack you. He doesn't care about freedom of the press. If you say, hey, listen, look, he's just using his speech to attack her, yes, but there are rules around that, including defamation, and they can settle that in court. In this particular case, was she right? Well, Gigaford's security manager at that time, I'm quoting Mediaite now, at that time filed a whistleblower report with the SEC, maintaining that Musk's accusations against Tripp were not true. People inside the factory saying Elon Musk was wrong and he did this with no evidence against, I mean, he's the richest man in the world and he's attacking tiny folks with almost no money, no resources, no power in an effort to crush them and get them fired. And so again, cancel culture 101, make up your mind. Do you like it or do you hate it?
For me, like, look, I think the definition of cancel culture is a little vague. I think there's also call out culture where, let's say someone does something questionable and then a bunch of people like to pile on social media and criticize that person, calling them out. I see that as a little different from trying to get someone fired from their jobs. And that is what he specialized in. He would do whatever he could to intimidate people And in the case of Tesla, he would fire individuals who dare cross him, especially when it came to one unionizing effort at Tesla that I want to give you the details about. So he doesn't believe that workers, certainly his workers, deserve a voice. Musk has sought to aggressively discourage unionization at Tesla. In a 2018 tweet, Musk threatened to rescind employee stock options at Tesla if workers decided to join a union. Tesla fired Richard Ortiz, a Tesla employee who was advocating for a union. The National Labor Relations Board ended up ruling in 2021 that Musk's firing of Ortiz actually violated the law. Also, one other sign that you're not really a huge advocate for free speech is when you get people or force people to sign non-disclosure agreements. So Tesla was also ordered by the NLRB to amend its notoriously restrictive non-disclosure agreements. The Tesla NDA instructed employees that they were not allowed to speak with media without explicit written permission, but it did not advise employees that labor law protects employees when they speak with the media about working conditions, labor disputes, or other terms and conditions of employment. So what he did there was also against the law. Not only was it against free speech, it was against the law. So he had to respond to what the NLRB had decided there in basically calling out the illegal nature of how he was treating his own employees by, putting a muzzle on them and not allowing them to speak to the media.
Yeah, so I love that you clarified cancel culture. So getting people fired for saying something you don't agree with, textbook definition of cancel culture, okay? So you fight back with other speech, that's another thing, right? And you could say, hey, it depends, does it get close to the edge or whatever? But trying to get people fired, that is definitely it, right? I would argue the second closest example of what the core of cancel culture is what Musk is doing with all these lawsuits. The minute anybody says something he doesn't like, he's like, oh, I'm suing you for $100 million. Now, randos don't have $100 million. They don't have money for lawyers to defend themselves against outrageously false lawsuits, which brings us to Randeep Hothi. He was a critic of Tesla. And Elon Musk just made up that Hothi had run into one of the Tesla employees with his car. How do I know he made it up? Well, he did his usual trick. By the way, every part of this is Trumpian. Sue people for criticizing you. That was classic Trump move for decades, okay? I got more money than you, I got lawyers, you don't have lawyers, you're an average guy, I'm gonna bulldoze you, right? Because he's rich, not because he's right. By the way, he can do it to you too, if you dare disagree with him, no matter where you are on the political spectrum. So eventually an Alameda County judge ordered Tesla to produce the supposed footage. Again, I'm quoting Mediaite here. The car maker declined and dropped the suit. He was lying the whole time. He said, I have evidence, I have tape of Hothi running into a Tesla employee. They said that. The court says, give it to me. He says, yeah, okay, never mind, and drops the suit. Because the suit was never true. It was meant to intimidate an average guy who had dared to criticize the mega billionaire Elon Musk. How dare he? The issue isn't that Elon Musk is a billionaire. The issue is that he uses that money to intimidate anyone who would criticize him because he thinks, I just have more money than you, so I'm gonna win whether I'm right or I'm wrong. And that also is deeply Trumpian. Making up evidence, Trumpian. Claiming you're for free speech and actually fighting against free speech, Trumpian. So watch out. I mean, if this pattern holds into the future, Twitter will turn into one giant Trump love fest, awful place filled with lies, etc. He could prove us all wrong by doing the right thing because it's in the future.
But he's not going.
But his pattern shows he has no intention of doing that.
Okay, one final thing that I'll say. Look, it's not just about his pattern. Like, I think you can look to someone's past to get a good prediction about how they're going to behave in the future. But it's also something that I want you guys to consider in regard to like incentives and disincentives. We talk about that on the show a lot. So whether you think he's a good guy or bad guy is really irrelevant. What you should focus on is what are his incentives, what are his disincentives. His incentives have to do with profit. And if he is in charge of a platform that controls messaging, in particular messaging that might have to do with his own businesses, What do you think he's gonna do with messaging that might hurt his bottom line?
He's never gonna hurt his bottom line. Come on.
You might think he's a great guy. You might think like, no, he's my hero. I'm gonna ignore all the evidence. I'm gonna ignore everything. Who cares about the receipts? I have a weird like, boner for Elon Musk. Okay, great, cool, enjoy your boner. But the point that I wanna make is, he is gonna wanna protect his profits. That's it. At the end of the day, when you see all these examples of him trying to squash free speech, it has to do with him facing potential financial ramifications for running his business poorly. And he squashes the free speech. That is who Elon Musk is, but it's not just about who he is as a person. It's what's incentivized. And this would be the case with any other insanely wealthy CEO, any other executive who wants to protect their bottom line.
By the way, we talked about this on Old School last night. This part now is just speculation, but he says he's gonna get rid of the bots, but a ton of the bots look like they're giant Elon Musk fans. So several people have written articles about, wow, that's curious how many bots are pro Elon Musk. If he did buy Twitter, which he has, and he got rid of the evidence on who had the bots, especially as someone could be, I don't know that he was, manipulating public markets, well then I guess you'd never get that evidence, would you? Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.